Okay, this is antepartum lecture number 3. So if you have heard of RhoGAM, Rh factor, isoimmunization, what we're talking about is Rh factor. And it's something that we want to know the status of every pregnant woman. And we need to treat it so that she'll be able to have children without them dying. So before RhoGAM was invented or discovered, women would have one baby and then would never be able to take another baby she'd have loss after loss after loss, and she just would never be able to. And they figured out why that was, and I'll explain it to you right here in this picture. So imagine that this is a red blood cell right here, okay? And if you have a positive blood type, like for instance, I am A positive, on the outer surface of your red blood cells, there is an antigen or a marker, and it's called the D antigen. And it's a marker of determining that you have this type of red blood cell, okay? Those people who have negative blood types do not have this marker. So if they were to come in contact with in their bloodstream or their body with another or a red blood cell with that D antigen on the surface, they would recognize it as an invading organism, create antibodies to destroy it or to lyse it. And that's essentially what happens with women who have Rh negative blood types. So they conceive with an Rh positive father, this Rh negative mother, and together they have a fetus that has a positive blood type. So it has those antigens on the surface of its red blood cells. So normally in a pregnancy, the mom and the baby's blood supply should not mix. They have their own blood supply. They're their own entities. They are not connected. This baby is its own entity right here. So if something were to happen, trauma during childbirth, or something that happened during pregnancy, like an amniocentesis where they stick a needle through the uterus into the fetal amniotic sac, there is a risk of the blood mixing. So if that blood were to mix and those fetal red blood cells somehow got into the mom's vascular system, then it would recognize these fetal red blood cells as invaders. And what would happen is they would create these antibodies right here that are programmed to recognize these red blood cells and to seek them out and to destroy them or lyse them. And if these antibodies somehow got into that fetal circulatory system through the placenta, it would start to lyse or kill all the red blood cells of that baby. And then the baby would die, right? So when we so this baby is delivered, it's a healthy baby. Mom, though, has, because of these red blood cells that got into the mom's blood supply, the mom created antibodies. So the next baby, this is another baby. This time, same thing, the blood mixes by chance. Those antibodies seek out and destroy that fetal red blood cell system, all those fetal red blood cells, and the baby can't survive and it dies. So we give what's called RhoGAM. We give it around the 27th to 28th week or before if there's going to be any kind of procedure that's going to put her at risk for the mixing of blood. And we're going to give it after birth if there's an Rh positive baby. And we're going to give it as an IM and gluteus maximus. And it's very painful from what I hear. I've only given, I've never received. I have A positive, remember. So what it's going to do, it's not going to kill the antibodies. It's going to prevent the mom from developing antibodies by lysing or destroying those infant red blood cells before that baby, the mom's immune system can detect it. Once that mom has created antibodies, she will always have antibodies, and there's nothing you can do about it. But having RhoGAM, giving RhoGAM, prevents the creation of antibodies, if that makes sense. If not, email me. I will try to do whatever I can to make it more clear. But that's something you really need to know about Rh factor. It prevents the mom from developing antibodies Once she's developed antibodies, there's nothing you can do. Okay, so torch infections, the next thing we're going to talk about. And these are a set of infections, I'll put them out here for you, that have something in common. So they're things like toxoplasmosis. They're all different kinds of infections. Toxoplasmosis is what we get from handling raw meat or kitty litter. So pregnant women are encouraged not to handle kitty litter or handle raw meat. And then in the O section, they just kind of lump everything that they couldn't fit in the other ones in the O. And then R is rubella. We're really concerned about rubella because we're losing our herd immunity because people are not immunizing. So there is risks for pregnant women with unborn children in contracting rubella. Cytomegalovirus, CMV, is very troublesome, and then herpes and HIV. And remember, these are infections that we worry about if the mom contracts them while she's pregnant. And, not a lot of these things cause death, and some of them there is not any problem for the mom, like group B strep. There's no problem to the mom usually at all. And you can treat the infection for the mom and the mom will be just fine. But the problem comes is it impacts this developing fetus. It can impact the brain, the nerve system, and everything. And once that has happened, no matter what you do to the mom, it will never change the outcome to the baby. The baby's outcomes are dire. So for rubella, if a mom contracts rubella when she's pregnant, it can cause permanent brain, small brains. It can cause permanent nerve damage. It can cause the baby to be born deaf. There's lots of things that can cause. And so we're trying to, with this group B strep, which I'll talk about in more detail, it causes nothing, no harm to the mom, but it can cause bacterial meningitis, sepsis, and death for that baby within 48 hours, very rapidly, once the baby is born. So we're trying to avoid the mom getting these torch infections while she's pregnant. So we're going to educate her to stay away. If she is a 1 to 8, this is checking to see if she is immune from rubella. If she has a less than 1 to 8 immunity, or if her titer comes back less than 1 to 8, then we know she's not immune. We need to tell her to stay away from people with unknown rashes because she could contract rubella and she could cause permanent damage to her growing fetus. Okay, so I talked about group B strep. This is something that we all want to know, every patient, the group B strep status of our patients. And I'll tell you why. It's the leading cause of problems, perinatal infections, and it's life-threatening for these babies. So group B is just a gram-positive bacteria that colonizes. It starts out in the intestines. It lives in the intestines, about 10 to 30% of women, of just the population, and it just lives there. But the problem is it will travel down into the rectum, vagina, cervix, urethra, all over and kind of populate there. And the transmission will happen during either vaginal delivery or right after water breaks. So C-section babies are not immune to getting group B in either. So what we do to kind of understand the group B status of pregnant women is we take a vaginal and a rectal culture at 35 to 37 weeks gestation, so as close to delivery as we can, and we will see if they are group B positive. If they're group B positive, they do carry group B, then we're going to give them antibiotics during labor, either clindamycin or ampicillin. It doesn't matter what we give. You don't need to know that. You just kind of need to understand what group B is and what it causes. It can cause severe infections within 48 hours. Like I said, severe sepsis, pneumonia, bacterial meningitis, which can lead to death. And I took care of I was working in the NICU in the Children's Hospital in Albuquerque, and we got a call from the ER coming in through ambulance is a baby that was a home birth, group B status unknown. It turned out to be group B status positive, and we had that baby on ECMO, which is where we completely shut down the heart and lungs of the baby in order to save that baby's life, and we barely saved that baby's life. So it is very severe, and I've seen very severe cases. My autistic son just walked in, so he's gonna, hopefully, I'm gonna pause this video. Okay, I'm back. So as far as maternal nutrition goes, I'm really not going to go over it much, but it is chapter 5 in your ATI. And part of your assignment is to create a care plan or a teaching plan for your patient. So make sure to include parts of the nutrition that we're concerned with, how much fluid she's supposed to get, calcium, protein, weight gain, those kinds of things. And just make it as detailed or not detailed as you would like, just something that you feel like you could give the patient and know that they have the information that they need throughout pregnancy. If you want to click on this, it is just a WebMD cute video. I just play it in class to kind of give us a break, but it's not anything that's going to give you any real important information. Okay, so like I said, we're going to check her risk assessments also. We're going to see the things that will cause her to be at increased risk, and all of these things will place a pregnant woman at increased risk. When we see a woman seeking prenatal care, say in the 2nd or 3rd trimester, late 2nd, 3rd, we always know that that's a red flag. A lot of times it's associated with maternal substance abuse, and we recognize that that is a huge problem. If anytime that she's had previous preterms, miscarriages, preeclampsia, anything like that, we know that she's at risk for the same thing happening again. Any kind of chronic disease that she has, especially heart disease, is going to put her at high risk. Women with heart disease, we do not want them pushing during labor because that's going to could cause cardiac arrest. So we will just do a C-section. And then inadequate living conditions. If she's homeless, we have to take that into consideration too. And a lot of times these babies end up in the NICU because of all these risk factors. And then if she has any risk of domestic violence, I took care of a baby in the NICU one time. His mom was kicked in the stomach very hard, and it caused placenta abruption, where the placenta comes away from, is ripped away from the uterus, and the baby is in severe danger of dying because of it. Baby lived and it was great. It was fine. I mean, I don't know anything past exiting our NICU, but we took really good care of him. And then really young or really advanced maternal age, they have risk problems that other moms do not have. Okay. We're going to, each time we see the mom, monitor urine for these things. And then especially if we see proteinuria mixed with these 3 things, these are hallmark markers for preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is more than just an increased blood pressure. It's actually her vascular system is being attacked by the placenta. And I'll talk about that in more detail next week. But if we see headache mixed with right epigastric pain, which is caused by liver damage, and then blurry vision caused by the vessels in the eye, then we know that she is at risk for preeclampsia. So we want to do something about that. And then we're going to make sure she has all the resources she needs, any kind of classes we feel that could help her and her family prepare for this birth. Okay, I'm going to stop this again because now we're going to go into assessment of fetal well-being, and it's a good time to stop.